adding more to the astrosphere, the dream reality, right? So that's where we left off, talking about dreams and how the dream world of 4D converging into 3D. So now let's talk about some other dimensions that come into play. And again, we'll be rehashing some older material when we say that too. But for the most part, just think of it like this. The thought forms, all of the traffic that's in 4D, that comes from 4D, that crashes into 3D, making that like a shared experience. Those archetypes and God forms and egregores, they come from higher realities. When they talk about a dimension, it's really just defined as really a line going through a cross section. So in the cross section of this convergence of all thoughts and manifestations being real and jumbled up onto one scene, the cross section in that becomes those, and you can say whatever they are, whoever they are, whether they're human or not, alien or not, but something in the cross line of that intersection on the higher plane is collecting all of those impressions. This is when you get into sometimes body double talk, when they talk about the ethers and your etheric body, and talking about the collection of gases. It gets very astronomical, dealing with astronomy. So needless to say though, when you're being collected like that, it becomes like sports. Life becomes just like sports. You don't know how it's gonna go if you're not the owners. Now, this is allegedly true about the surface level sports. But as far as 4D sports and 5D sports and 6D sports, which we're going to tackle a little bit here, you have this collection of everything in 4D. Somebody's collecting all of that. Depending on what school of thought you come from, you'll say that all of this is you. And if you're going with that, the same signposts are going to apply. If you want to rise above 4D, because we're in 4D now, so 4D is going to become the new baseline. So in order to overcome 4D, one says quite essentially, well, you have to go into 5D. Right, 5D is the next cross section. But what did you do in 5D that will keep you there, or at least establish you there enough to override 4D? Because now look at the 4D main attribute is crowding. And this is just what you get with unlimited entertainment. You get crowding. In that crowding, you start to assimilate, make distinctions. You start to categorize. You start to select. See, we're getting right back into another fractal. This is but a fractal of you holding on to the vibration of what you want. This is really just but another fractal of it. So on the much bigger screen, you got archetypes, egregores, pantheons. All of those things have been housed together and collected by something else. Now, you could say that all of this is man. And the way we're talking, we're saying from 3D, this is how you get a handle on everything else. Because you're only doing any and everything from 3D. Because you're here. So from 3D, you look at 4D and you understand that it is the chaos of everything. Whatever was trying to be, whatever is waiting to be, and whatever was, is all in 4D. Now you start to look at any patterns in 4D, any patterns in the chaos, anything in the chaos you can identify. Once you do that, now you're operating from 5D because you're bringing order to the chaos. 4D is straight up chaos. What we have converged on now is pure chaos. Dreams, even if peaceful, are made of chaos, elements of chaos, elements of darkness. You gotta remember, anything you're seeing in a dream is through closed eyes. Let that sink in. You're seeing certain things with a veil. With a veil over your eyes, there's certain things that you see. When we think of a veil, we're like, it's just a blank sheet. It's just a black cloth. That's not how the veil works. In dimensions, the veil is not black. The veil has a reality draped on it. They're not just putting a blindfold on your eyes. They're putting a world. The veil, they're putting a world over your eyes. This is what happens in dreams. You get a world placed over your eyes. Not a dark sheet, not a blank nothingness, but a false reality. A whole nother reality is on that veil. So pretend that veil is just a design that's so elaborate that it really can pass for reality. Like, wow, look at this cloth. This is unlike any cloth I've seen before. Whoever did the artwork on this, they made this really real, like that. The veil has a reality on it. You can almost use it, make it analogous to virtual reality goggles. You got the world that you see with your eyes, but then when you put the lens on, when you put the goggles on, you see a different world. This is why They Live, where Keith David and Roddy Piper was so influential to the Matrix. Because way back then you had people looking through goggles, using lens, using a veil, right? To see things differently, putting a veil on in order to see something else. If you put in 3D on 3D, the veil is just to blind you from something, but not replacing it with anything, just replacing it with darkness. But we're not in darkness. We're in what happens after darkness. So once you drift off into sleep, that blackness, after the blackness, then you enter the scene, or you just appear wherever you appear in the dream. Now, here's the thing. Based on your understanding of how dimensions work in terms of psychology and spirituality, will determine whether or not in the dream that you're living, whether or not you have a veil or whether or not you're really there. Incubus and succubus type of energies are really responsible for making sure a lot of times that you get a veil over your eyes to see something else. Yeah, they'll come in. Don't let you be like some deep spiritual person per se and You slip off into a dream and you enter a repression and a regression. And all of a sudden, you know what I mean? You are steeped in eros in your dreams subconsciously. Or you might be a nerd who goes on a player streak. Or, you know, a Susie Homemaker that's really a Sasha Fierce. All of this is happening because of the dream sphere. And your decision to be one or the other is leaning on whether or not you're on the cross section of the fourth dimensional line, which is 5D. So in 5D, they go right back into talking about becoming what it is you want to attract. And you becoming it and embodying it. And it's really about taking the feelings from the acquired desire. Right? Just like the scriptures say, anyone believing that they received it shall have it. You taking the feeling of the belief, the sensations that come from it, the gratitude, the exhilaration, and this is what you're going to carry as a primary energy signature if this is what you want your life to become, because the feeling part has to be added too, or else it's going to look like faith without works. See that this is the higher level of faith and works. It's not just you believe in something and you doing the physical action. That's the 3D version of faith and works. But the 4 and 5D version of faith and works is really about you embodying the feelings that come with the success, the feelings that come with the acquired goal. There's no need for you to have the mate that you've been looking for your whole life if you're still the wrong person for that mate and you didn't become a more attractive person by entering a relationship. You may have attracted it artificially. And so there's this pull where you can have a real big blessing for a very, very short time. Almost like it's being passed through your fingers. You being allowed to touch it, but not hold it. So we'll dig more into that in another part to this this dream convergence, 4D, 3D convergence. But on the cross line, we're going to talk about holding on to the feeling and how important the holding on to that feeling is as we ascend to yet higher dimensions. Super T Sigma programming. See you shortly. All right, jumping back into the dream scheme, the 3D, 4D convergence, and now we're at the 5D operation of it. Holding on to the feeling of the acquired desire from 5D. So now in 3D, 4D, that's when you work out the visualization. You decide what you're going to choose. You're going to understand all the chaoses and know that, okay, this is the zoo of desire where everything is just clashing onto itself. What do I select from this raging ocean of realities? What's going to be my thimble for? That's what you're doing to go from 4D to 5D. Now you're holding on to the feeling. This is what the 6D reality is. So now we're going up a step even higher than this. James Brown said, he said, baby, 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 I got the feeling. He had to say baby like 12 times. Why? Because we're in the infancy of the dream stage. Of course, James Brown was ahead of his time. It just sounds like good music and good grooves. But the hidden gems is right there in your face. He didn't just say he has feeling. He's the godfather of soul, so they call him, the godfather of feeling. Let that sink in. But he said, I got that feeling. is a particular feeling. It's different for every person. However you feel when you have everything you want. It sounds so simple, and it's really the only rule to get what you want, to control your luck. Can you hold on to the feeling? We say that we can, and a lot of times we don't. What we feel is usually what's happening in our immediate environment. You know, a lot of the times we might feel something from the past and end up going back there. Something we didn't get over. We'll get that feeling, the feeling of whoever betrayed us. We'll hold on to that feeling because we had that before, but we never had $1 million before. So that's not a feeling that we will hold on to. And because of that, we'll never have it. If you could hold on to that feeling, though, I don't have $1 million. So I obviously didn't hold on to the feeling, obviously. Even after having known this information solid since maybe 2013, 2014, right? Still, even almost a decade later, I'm still not quite yet disciplined enough to be filthy rich. It's just discipline. It's not, this person is holding me back and that person is, let whatever it be what it is. But understand that your magic can override all that and make things exceptional for you. You can be an exception, which is to say, yeah, everybody else is struggling except for you. You could be an exception. Oh, nobody can get their prayers answered that fast except for you. Why? Not because you begging, because no voice is coming back from the sky to tell you yes or no. Nothing is coming from there. And if you heard something, it was either a bird or a plane or some thunder. Facts. We're talking about what we can prove, being the ultimate unfolding of what we struggle to believe. Both things are real. One is the shadow of the other. So we're holding on to this feeling, right? And now we got to understand things like pheromones, electromagnetism, because now we step into that kind of operation where now is about who can hold their feelings the longest and the strongest. Not feeling all over the place, but focusing, holding one essential vibration. It's simple too, because for the most part, everybody wants to be happy, right? I think we can assume that the average person just wants to be happy, wants to be at peace, wants to be at ease. So you can choose to embody that. What is the feeling of money in the bank? You can embody that. Now you're gonna have to fight the 6D, sixth dimensional witches and wizards who already know the practice that might be fighting against you. The ones that are responsible for sending the counter feelings like, I don't deserve this. Nobody in my family ever made $1 million. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve $1 million if I'm unemployed. I don't deserve $1 million if I'm struggling to get 100. Higher dimensional practitioners will enter that cross section your 5D cross section. They're trying to put a cross section in that, in your feelings, to say you got this feeling, but this feeling doesn't match your family history with finances. You have this feeling, but it doesn't match your relationship history. You have this feeling. When you get those kind of resistances where the moment you try to feel the desire as done, like it is done, I feel it, I believe it, I receive it, that little voice that says, I don't believe it, I don't receive it, this stuff probably don't even work anyway, this is probably just a bunch of hocus pocus, I need to get real and wake up and da 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 da. Those are even higher beings. You're not going to find them in 4D. 4D is the noise. That's where you go. If you fall victim to them, you'll fall into 4D, which is 3D now. You'll fall into the chaos. We're talking about going above the clouds, right? Neo and Trinity, they went above the clouds for a minute. The world was dark and chaotic, and death was imminent. But for a moment, they went above the clouds. And for the first time in the Matrix, they were able to see the sun. Because where were they going? They were going to the source, to Machine City. This is what they mean when they say, take it to God. Take it to God in prayer. What they really mean, because God is power, take it to power. Speak truth to power. Take it to power in your contemplation. Take it there. And now, hold it there. Taking it there is a separate instruction from keeping it there. Here go an analogy that'll hit. There's a difference between making money and keeping money. Ask anybody who's ever worked whether or not it's the same thing. There's a difference between making money and keeping money. If you're born into generational wealth, there's a 98% chance you've been blinded from this reality, that there really is no difference between making money and keeping money, because you got money. You have more money than time. For most of us, we have to work hourly because we don't have as much money as we do time. And of course, existentially speaking, nobody knows how much time we have, you understand? That's just a figure of speech. It's like saying, when we say time and money in that way, in terms of generational wealth versus having to work, we're talking about money against time for generations to survive and thrive. In the Far East, they think like this. They'll say, I want my family to be rich for 100 years. They'll do that. They'll have that kind of mentality. Or this should secure my wealth for, 15 generations. That's how they think. And this is what we mean when we're saying money's time. We're not holding it against expenses, which is 3D on 3D, 33. 3D on 3D, right? You're just consuming is the results of 4D, right? It becomes more consumption based. The higher up you go, that's when you get to the kitchen. On the dreamscape, the kitchen is in the attic. The higher up you go in the dimensions, the closer you get to the chef. The higher up you go in the dimensions, the closer you get to the chef. They're cooking it up. See, in 3D, it's cooked already. When you see it in front of you in your 3D life, what they say, the cake's been baked already. That's what the thugs say. when they're getting ready to put in some work or have put in the work, and they're like, yo, look, the beef is it's on site. They'll say, yo, the cake been baked. The cake been baked. It's too late. The cake been baked. When you got it in 3D, when it's tangible right in front of you physically, the cake has been baked. That's, you at the table at that point, right? Psalm 23, and he shall prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. He's preparing a table for you in the presence of your enemies. In the preparation, see, there's enemies all the way back up in prep. There's fights in the kitchen. Or else he'll be like, I'm going to set the table for you in the presence of your enemies. Now we're talking about your enemies are just at the dinner table waiting for you now. They're waiting with you. They're at the table. But there's a difference between setting the table and preparing the table. He said, I go to prepare a place for you. If he's preparing the table, that goes back to the cooks. Now we going back to the kitchen. Now we're talking about the prep work. So it's people on higher levels cooking things up against your feelings, against what you want. They're cooking it. So how do you operate there? Same rules apply. This just lets you know how much you stand to win. Now that you're cooking your desire, now that you've held on to it, now that you've allowed that laser to burn the image onto the paper, it's just like the old days of filmmaking. I took a film class, photography class rather, where you had to prepare the film in the dark room. And when you got to the part where you was back in the red room, when you had to burn the image onto the paper, you had to hold the paper under the light. You couldn't just move it around. You had to hold it there until the light could burn the image through the chemicals onto the paper. You had to hold it. You can't just say, nah, I believe for 5 minutes and then I wiggle it around. Your picture is not going to come out. You have to hold that light. Hold it. And that's when the life that you want will burn onto the image of your 3D. This is all wrapped into jumping through the 4D crowd, picking out the feelings from the 5D crowd or group, 5D space, 5D ranch or range. It's more like a range or a ranch, the 5D experience. And then finally 6D, which we'll say for now, is you holding on to that feeling. And to that feeling creates its own top-down pyramid and influences your reality, things, places, and even people around you. So that's how we maneuver in this 3D, 4D convergence. We have to do other cross sections between those lines as you rise higher. Dimension 3, then you do the cross section, that's 4. Dimension 4, then the cross section, that's 5. Dimension 5, then the cross section, that's 6. You can do, I think, 6, 7, and 8. And I don't think it goes any higher than 8 in terms of doing cross sections, unless you're talking about world building. So I guess the best analogy I could use for that is if you're a person with 30, 40 million followers, at that point, you could be operating like somebody in 70, 80, 60. Because at that point, now you're an influencer. And so if you're an influencer, right, you're high up in the kitchen. You're not the affected. You're not the influenced. You're the influencer. So the kitchen, remember, in the dream space, the kitchen is in the attic. The kitchen is upstairs. You got to go upstairs to eat. And the kitchen is on the top floor, so they're bringing their food down to you. Super T Sigma, Sigma Programming. Stay illuminated. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Peace.